Sergei Surovikin has taken command of all Russian forces operating in Ukraine, and he is tasked with putting out all the fires started by his predecessors. His army is overextended, undersupplied, and facing imminent defeat on multiple fronts. Defeat after defeat has depleted the strength of the ground forces and compromised their defensive capabilities. They are especially vulnerable to Ukrainian offensives in Kherson, where their logistical supply chains run through tight bottlenecks, and in Luhansk, where they recently suffered multiple defeats around Kharkiv and Liman. The constant attrition of manpower and modern equipment is slowly breaking down the effectiveness and morale of the Russian armed forces operating in Ukraine, and to solve these crises, Surovikin must be willing to make difficult sacrifices. The goal of Russia's special military operation remains the decapitation of the Ukrainian government, the installation of a friendly regime in Kiev, and further annexation of Ukrainian territories. To achieve this goal, Surovikin has decided to take consequential steps. Step 1. Terrorize and break the will of the Ukrainian people with overwhelming air power. Hundreds of warheads have rained down on cities across Ukraine since October 10th, hitting targets of all kinds, from power plants to vital infrastructure to homes and businesses and parks. Surovikin has made it clear that this winter his goal is to inflict as much pain and suffering on the Ukrainian people as possible. Step 2. Preservation of the Russian ground forces. To accomplish this, Surovikin might be forced to sacrifice the Kherson bridgehead. And many analysts speculate that the order to begin withdrawing from the west bank of the Dnieper has already been given and is currently underway. But on the other hand, reports have come out saying that more men and equipment are being transferred into the west bank and Kherson, which would contradict theories about an imminent Russian retreat. But we have to keep in mind that part of a successful withdrawal includes deception. So we can break down this information in one of three ways. 1. Russia will fight to hold Kherson, and these forces are intended to bolster the Russian defensive lines. 2. These forces will act as a rear guard to facilitate an orderly fighting withdrawal of Russian forces across the Dnieper. Or 3. Reports of these forces arriving in Kherson are deliberate disinformation as part of a deception campaign to make the Ukrainians believe that the Russians will fight for Kherson when in reality a phased withdrawal is taking place. Once these two steps are accomplished, he will be able to begin preparations for further offensive actions in Ukraine. And this will require replenishing the ground forces of their two greatest deficits, manpower and equipment. Of course, partial mobilization is already underway, but if you've been following my content, then you know that I believe Russia will undergo many waves of further mobilization over the coming months and well into next year. But this will entirely depend on what Surovikin and Putin's goals for the upcoming campaigns will be. If they only want to secure Donbass, then retreating from Kherson to bolster their forces in Zaporizhia and Donetsk along with the 300,000 conscripts might be enough to concentrate forces in Donbass to punch through the heavily entrenched Ukrainian positions. But if their goal is to fully decapitate the Ukrainian government and destroy the Ukrainian armed forces, as they say it is, then they will absolutely require more waves of mobilization and the transition to a war economy to fully replenish their manpower and equipment deficit. These are the options in front of Surovikin and the Russians, and we will just have to wait to see what their next move will be.